If you steal $1,000, you go to jail. If you invent $2 billion out of thin air, Wall Street calls you a genius. Until they realize they didn't fund a tech company. They funded a global intelligence network hiding in plain sight. Look at your banking app. You see a number on the screen and you trust it. You trust that the money is sitting in a vault somewhere, backed by math, regulated by the government, and protected by the smartest people in the financial world. But what if I told you that trust is the greatest vulnerability you have? In the summer of 2020, one of the most powerful tech companies in the world, a financial titan valued at $28 billion, a company that processed payments for hundreds of thousands of businesses globally, made a terrifying announcement. Over $2 billion in cash was missing from their bank accounts. Within days, the CEO was behind bars. The stock dropped by 99%. Over 300,000 retail investors had their savings vaporized. But the most shocking part wasn't that the money was missing. The shocking part was that the $2 billion never existed in the first place. For over a decade, the global financial system, top-tier auditors, and an entire European government were completely fooled by a phantom company. But this wasn't just a case of greedy CEOs cooking the books. As investigators dug through the digital ashes, they didn't just find fake spreadsheets. They found connections to international cartels, private mercenary armies, and a shadowy network tied directly to Russian intelligence. This is the story of Wirecard, the fintech darling that was actually a front, and the mastermind behind it all. He is currently the most wanted man on the planet, and he vanished into thin air. To understand how you fake a $28 billion tech empire, you have to understand the boring, invisible plumbing of the internet. When you swipe your credit card, the money doesn't just magically teleport to the merchant. It goes through a payment processor. Wirecard was Europe's answer to PayPal and Stripe. They handled the dirty, high-risk transactions that traditional banks wouldn't touch. Online gambling, adult entertainment, and sketchy internet pharmacies. Because these transactions were high risk, Wirecard charged massive fees, and on paper they were making a fortune. But there was a problem. The tech was actually terrible. The core business was losing money. So, to keep the illusion alive, Wirecard invented the ultimate digital magic trick: third-party acquirers. They told their auditors, "We are making so much money in Asia, but we don't have banking licenses there, so we use third-party partners in places like the Philippines and Dubai to hold our cash." It sounded legitimate. They showed the auditors bank statements. They showed them digital portal logins with billions of dollars sitting in escrow accounts. But it was all a mirage. The third-party partners were shell companies. The digital portals were fake websites coded to display whatever number Wirecard wanted. The bank executives confirming the balances. They were paid actors. Wirecard had created an infinite money glitch. They were literally just typing numbers into a screen, and Wall Street was rewarding them with billions of dollars in real investment. But to pull off a lie this massive, you need a very specific type of leader. If you want to hide a massive fraud, hide it in plain sight and dress it up like Silicon Valley. Enter Markus Braun, the CEO of Wirecard. He wore black turtlenecks. He spoke in vague philosophical tech jargon about the cashless society and AI-driven synergy. He positioned himself as the Steve Jobs of Europe. Under Braun's leadership, Wirecard didn't operate like a bank. It operated like a cult. When a group of relentless journalists at the Financial Times started noticing that the numbers didn't add up, Braun didn't just issue a corporate denial. He went to war. Wirecard hired elite, ex-intelligence private spies to stalk the journalists. They hacked their emails. They launched massive online disinformation campaigns, framing the reporters as corrupt criminals trying to short the stock. And the terrifying part, the strategy worked. But Markus Braun was just the front man. He was the ego. The real architect of the darkness operating beneath Wirecard was a man named Jan Marsalek. And this is where a corporate scandal turns into a geopolitical nightmare. Jan Marsalek was Wirecard's chief operating officer, but he didn't act like a tech executive. He acted like James Bond. Marsalek traveled the world with a diplomatic passport from the island nation of Grenada. He held meetings in a multi-million-dollar villa in Munich, directly across from the Russian consulate. And he had a very strange hobby for a fintech executive. He was obsessed with military intelligence. While Markus Braun was talking to investors, Marsalek was secretly using Wirecard's untraceable global payment infrastructure to move money for the Russian GRU. He wasn't just faking bank accounts. Recent intelligence leaks reveal that Marsalek was funding private mercenary groups in Libya. He was carrying classified nerve agent formulas to impress contacts. He was using Wirecard's massive database of global transactions to track the movements of politicians and intelligence targets for foreign spies. Wirecard wasn't just a payment processor. It was a privately owned, fully functional intelligence network, hiding behind a corporate logo. And for years, the very people supposed to protect the public from this were protecting Wirecard instead. If you are wondering how a $28 billion fraud involving Russian spies happens in Germany, one of the most strictly regulated economies on Earth? The answer is terrifyingly simple. Nationalism. Germany desperately wanted a homegrown tech giant to rival Silicon Valley. Wirecard was their golden goose. It was one of the top 30 companies on the German stock exchange. So, when the Financial Times published hard evidence that Wirecard was faking its revenue, the German financial regulator BaFin didn't investigate Wirecard. They investigated the journalists. The government actually filed criminal complaints against the reporters who exposed the fraud. They banned investors from betting against Wirecard stock. The German regulatory machine became the ultimate bodyguard for a criminal enterprise, entirely blinded by the desire to protect their national pride. They defended the illusion until the very last second, until June 2020, when the auditors finally flew to the Philippines, knocked on the door of the bank, supposedly holding $2 billion, and were told, "We have no idea who you are." The house of cards collapsed overnight. Markus Braun was arrested. The politicians who defended Wirecard faced humiliating public inquiries. The company was wiped from existence. But what happened to Jan Marsalek? The day the company collapsed, Marsalek told his colleagues he was flying to the Philippines to find the missing money. He boarded a private jet. But he didn't go to Asia. He flew to Belarus, and from there he was smuggled into Moscow by Russian intelligence. And the threat is far from over. Just recently, British intelligence busted a ring of spies operating in the UK, spies who were being directly funded and directed by Jan Marsalek from his exile in Russia. The man who built the greatest financial illusion of the 21st century is now a fully active asset for a hostile foreign power. We tell ourselves that the financial system is safe, that the numbers on our screens are real, that the regulators are watching out for us. But Wirecard proved that with the right suit, the right buzzwords, and the right connections, you can blind the entire world. So, the next time you swipe your card, the next time you look at the balance in your banking app, ask yourself, is that money really there? Or is it just another number on a screen waiting to disappear?